All right. Hello and welcome, everyone. Pushing your Power BI potential, a comprehensive health check for improved performance and security. I'm Dan Jackson. I'm an analytics consultant for Coeo, and I will be presenting with my colleague Matt. You'll probably know him already if you went to the karaoke last night, but I'll let him introduce himself.
Cool, thanks Dan. I'm Matt Collins. I'm also working as an analytics consultant at Coeo, doing bits of data engineering, analytics, BI, and sometimes even some fancy ML.
Thanks, Matt. So yeah, before we kick off, just wanted to give you a little bit of background on Coeo, who we work for. I'm sure you'll have seen a lot of us around in the yellow t-shirts. But Coeo are trusted analytics and data management experts who architect, optimize, and migrate critical transaction processing systems and deploy business intelligence solutions that win business confidence and deliver insight. We're also gold partners for data analytics, data platform, cloud platform, application development, and application integration. We specialize in analytics and AI, dedicated support, and data platform. And with that, I'll hand back over to Matt to get us underway.
Cool. So before we get stuck in with the health check, let's start with the why this is all happening, why it's important. So we're going to start talking about Microsoft's cloud migration strategy. So this is a set of best practices, tools and services which help organizations migrate their IT infrastructure and applications to the cloud. So when talking about Power BI, we are talking about the optimize phase of this. So this is focused mainly around improving performance, efficiency, security, and cost optimization. So one of the key messages that we talk about and think about at this stage is that this is not a fire and forget strategy. We need a sort of continual process to ensure that your BI estate is performing and delivering the needs that your organization needs. So with that in mind, here's a quote from Harvard Business Review, which kind of highlights the cases that this doesn't always happen all the time. There's a few key signs that maybe you need to rethink your BI strategy and culture a little bit. These could be a lack of insights from your BI reports, no improvement in the decision-making process, data quality issues, possibly hindering the effectiveness of your reporting, and limited user adoption. So if the reports aren't giving the users any useful information, they're probably not going to use them. And at the end of it all, an inability to meet business goals. So a Power BI health check reviews these sorts of issues by talking to users and trying to address the areas of concern. So we'll run through the things that we look at as part of this now.
Awesome. So yeah, we're going to kick off with performance first of all. It's obviously a critical component. So if you've got long refresh times, visuals are taking a while to load, the users are going to be very unsatisfied, which is obviously not what we want. It's going to obviously impact adoption across the organization of the reports, and people are going to start looking at other things. So performance, obviously a big topic. This is a short talk, so we're going to cover very briefly some of the main things that we would look at with performance. So the first thing that we would start with is if we dive straight in with the model. So when we're looking at data sets and models, we tend to be looking for things that follow the star schema sort of pattern and techniques. So this is generally because in itself it's quite a simplified model. Obviously you've got facts surrounded by dimensions, so it's very easy for both technical and business users to kind of understand what's happening in the model. But alongside that, with Power BI, it's also an optimized format. So if your model is following this, then it's going to be performing better than if you're just using one massive table. So this is kind of where we'd start off. And we've linked to the model. I'm going to show you a quick demo. So as part of DAX Studio, there is a tool called the Vertipack Analyzer. So this demo here just shows how to open up your model in Power BI and then connect to it. So obviously, first of all, we'll open up our model. And then in external tools, providing you've installed DAX Studio, you can launch it through here. And it's a very useful tool just to get a quick overview of the storage, at least, that your model's using. So yeah, as you'll see, this has launched DAX Studio, already connected to the model. So within here, we can go to View Metrics, and this will run the Vertipack Analyzer. So you'll see a couple of different things here. So obviously, it's got metrics around tables, metrics around columns. Obviously, with different licensing types, knowing which columns are massive, taking up a high proportion of the database is quite important, and especially if it draws out that some of the larger columns aren't actually needed. It's a way to find quick wins with the model in terms of decreasing its size, which is also going to help with load times. So in case you haven't heard of it or haven't used it before, there's a link here. We'll also bring back all the links at the end on our final slide. So if you don't catch it now, we'll show it again at the end. And with that, I'll hand back to Matt to talk about security.
Cool, thanks. So security, obviously an important feature and consideration for any application. Power BI is no different. There are a bunch of security features built into it to help you protect your data, ensure that only the authorized users are accessing your data. So let's look at a couple of them. So the first one is conditional access. So when we talk about this, we're talking about Azure Active Directory's policy-based access management feature, which allows you to specify certain conditions on who and how users can access your reports and your estate. So when we say this, we talk about users, groups, even devices, specific devices, and locations. So you can have security at that level, which is really good. An example of this might be for third-party users of your reports. You could set up a conditional access rule that says they need to log in with MFA, so you can control it that way. So yeah, a health check ensures that your organization's regulatory needs are being met through enabling the right conditional access. So we've got another example here. So this is in the Power BI service. If you navigate to the admin portal and then go to tenant settings, we're going to show a quick example of how you can configure access, conditional access for exporting to Excel, one of Power BI's probably most unintentionally used features. So you can disable or enable this feature to specific AD groups, giving you a bit more control of who can take that data and move it elsewhere. So yeah, you've got good options there. Another security feature is row-level security. So this is against your data set. You can configure this again for different types of users. If you might have a portal where loads of different clients log in to look at the same report, but it's a single data set, you can filter that data set based on their access credentials. So again, maybe a more tangible example of this might be a phone company. They've got a data set. They've got a store manager in London who logs in. When he logs into the report, that report data is filtered to stores in the UK, so you can see how his store performs comparing to others in the UK. You might have an employee of a similar store in the USA, New York or something, logging in. Due to their more junior rank, maybe they've had row-level security set up so that they can only see data related to their store that they work in, so they don't have the same access as a manager. So that's an example of how you can keep a single data set, but then have all of these sort of security and permissions of what users can see, simplifying down from possibly many data sets to a single one. Cool, and back to you, Dan.
Thanks, Matt. We're flying through this. So yeah, next topic is data governance. Again, it's another large topic, a lot of areas covering it. So data governance in Power BI refers to managing and controlling access to data and reports to ensure data accuracy, consistency, and compliance with regulatory requirements. Data governance includes various activities such as data classification, lineage, security, and quality management. So when we're looking at data governance, a quick and easy place to start that gives us a good indication of where the estate might be is to have a look at the ratio between data sets and reports. So if there's a lot of reports within an organization and then we're looking at a ratio here that is similar of sort of 1-to-1, it's going to indicate that there's a real need for data reuse and sort of a real need for a robust data culture within that organization. So if we're looking at 1-to-1, it's sort of implying that everyone's creating their own data sets every time they need a report, and there's not really any centralized management of it. And if we're looking at 1-to-1, it's going to highlight that there's a possibility of a few problems, such as inconsistency. So if multiple people are implementing very similar things from very similar data, but in very slightly different ways, then their numbers coming out are likely to disagree, and then there's no real way of knowing whose numbers are correct without going back or arguing over it or whatever. So there's a good chance for inconsistency in that side. It's also going to be taking up more resource than you need, especially if you're able to reuse data sets. It's going to already reduce that. But talking with resources as well, if you've got multiple data sets doing the same thing, it's likely to be hitting whatever source system, whether it's your warehouse or coming directly from source systems. It's going to be hitting that multiple times from each data set, which is obviously going to be adding unnecessary load anyway. Alongside that, it also becomes very difficult to manage and maintain. So if some business logic changes, then suddenly you've got a load of different things to change it across. It's a good initial indicator. And with this, we tend to follow the sort of technique of having more centralized governance, at least around data sets. So with that, it'll be the data set, but also the policies, the data standards, all of that kind of thing will be centrally governed, with then more flexibility at the edge. So once those data sets and everything has been created, approved, run through the tests for accuracy and whatever, teams or end users can then use those data sets and build their own reports on top of it, their own custom visualizations, and do what they need to with that data. So one of the good things that Power BI has to help with this is the ability to endorse data sets. So with this, once you've had your data set go through whatever testing, whatever things you need to be verified within the organization as accurate and trustworthy, you then have the option to certify it. And then that sort of means that everyone else within the organization that has access to that data set can see that it has been certified, and they'll know that they can trust the data within it. So it's a really useful feature. And alongside that, there's another demo that I'd like to show you. This covers more operational side of things, as well as everything else that we've already discussed. So this is just showing how to use the best practice analyzer within Tabular Editor. So if I start that running, again, it's an external tool, so just to show you how to connect up to it. But within Tabular Editor, there's a best practice analyzer, and there's also a set of rules that you can download and run very quickly against your model. So you'll see an example of it here, and this just gives you a very good indicator of whether your model might be in violation of any of these, and just gives you a few starting points about maybe some quick wins, some quick things you can do to improve the health of it. So again, yeah, it's just showing how to run it. And yeah, so this is a link to the rules that you can download to use with Tabular Editor. Again, we'll put the link up at the end if anyone else wants to grab it. And with that, I'll hand back to Matt.
Cool, thanks. So yeah, everyone's favourite topic next, money. So obviously, cost is an important consideration when looking at Power BI, as with anything. So where do we start with that? Licensing. So there's 3 different licenses that you can use in Power BI: Pro, Premium, and Premium per user. How to choose which license to use. There's sort of 3 considerations to help guide your decision. The first, and probably the most obvious, cost. So depending on the number of users you have, it becomes important to choose the right model, the right license, I should say. The second is capacity. So there's some limitations with Pro in the sense that you have a max dataset size of 1 gigabyte in the Power BI service. And you're also limited to 8 daily refreshes. So if you need more than that, you need to start thinking of using one of the premium licenses. And then the final one is capabilities. So this is mainly around premium and some of the extra features you get there. So if you need anything that's around advanced AI capabilities, data flows, and auto scale, you might need to start looking at premium. With that being said, and going back to one of the first things we talked about, this is a continual process. There are features that have previously been in premium, such as incremental refresh, metrics, and paginated reports, which are now in the Pro license. So again, your organization might have chosen premium in the past due to paginated reports being required.